Chapter 3. Ugh. Break it up, lovers. Jeff startled them. The first day of the new world had begun. Dad, why are you still home? Jeff asked an innocent question, but his tone seemed resentful. It tempted Bill to lessen the news, but he chose honesty. Not going in today. This worldwide financial mess has tied up Wilson's money. I'll be off until he figures out how to pay us. Probably be back there tomorrow. Great, I don't need to go to school. Yes, you do, buddy boy. Bill used Jeff's toddler name. Do I, Dada? Father and son shared a genuine laugh. Sharon went into the house to make breakfast. Normally, it was only her and the kids, hurried toast for them, then a lingering coffee for her after they left. She had a handful of clients and could finish their business in a few hours. Bill wandered in for more coffee. Brandy appeared, towel drying her hair after her morning shower. She had her mother's quiet beauty and now, about to turn 13, was transforming into a woman. Bill suddenly felt sad. Brandy's world might not be the one she had expected. He hoped the adage about good things coming from bad would work out for Brandy and Jeff. The kids had developed a good deal of maturity, likely because they had always had a stable home life, and Sharon and Bill had tried to be encouraging parents. Both kids went through their morning routine and headed out with time to spare. They loved visiting and chatting with their friends before class. Brandy dashed back a moment later. Can I get the money for the trip? It's $50. Sharon made out a check for Brandy. It was all a routine. Bill and Sharon did not linger in the kitchen and dressed for the day. One of Sharon's clients called in a panic because they had a payroll to do and bills to pay. She could only assure the caller she would process the paperwork, but with the banks closed, people would have to wait for their money. I'll get right to it and try to find out what the score is, Sharon sounded like a reassuring parent. Her morning turned into a zoo, with some clients showing up, wanting checks processed, trying to get cash from the bank. The ATMs worked until they were empty of money. By mid-morning things quieted. Bill surveyed the yard, satisfied it was ready for winter. Warren called him over to the fence. Bill listened intently. Warren wanted to get a neighborhood cooperative organized, working on solutions and sharing resources. Bill resisted, saying they should allow a few days to see what would happen. In the end, he agreed to invite people to a block meeting to discuss the situation. Warren wanted Sharon to knock on doors and invite people to the Shadleys' house. He wisely understood Sharon had more credibility with the neighbors. Sharon visited the 12 houses on the short street. The unseasonably warm autumn breeze stirring red and golden maple leaves made it a pleasant walk. A light September haze rose in the warming sun as blue jays chased and played through the high trees. Wabun had languished as a quiet agriculture service center for almost 2 centuries, only made important by the now abandoned railway. In recent decades, it had transformed into a commuter bedroom for the Toronto area, complete with streets of poorly built suburban housing. The local councillors, all business people, supported this explosive growth on the mostly unfulfilled belief that it would bring more business and put money into their pockets. The population had ballooned by several times, but most of the new residents remained focused on the south where they originated and where they still worked. Although the Shadleys lived in the old part of town, their street had evolved into a mixture of newcomers and locals. Bill Shadley fit the commuter profile. He and Sharon had fled Oakville when Jeff had been born, searching for an affordable house. Many commuter types had stayed home that day. Sharon received a positive response. By the end of the day, Warren Dunn's reputation would improve, but that morning most considered him the oddball guy on Elm Street. Mom, Brandy burst into the kitchen at lunchtime, brandishing Sharon's check. It was unusual for Brandy to be home for lunch. She always took a sandwich and a juice so she could eat with her bus friends. Can you give me $50 cash? The school doesn't want checks. Sharon's temper flared, but then she remembered Brandy had little idea of the developing crisis. No, sweetie, we need to keep the cash. But Mom, this is a big trip, to the museum, I want to sketch. They'll think I'm a loser. No, that's final. There's a big crisis right now. We might need the cash. Sharon tried to hug her daughter. Brandy twisted away. You're ruining my life, she shouted, and tears appeared on her cheeks. She threw the check onto the table. You don't care. The door slammed as a sobbing Brandy disappeared. Sharon picked up the check, called the school and confirmed the story. With the banks disrupted, the bus company wanted cash for fuel. Mom, Brandy reappeared shortly past 3 o'clock. I'm sorry I freaked. The trip's off. Most of the other families don't even have cash. Brandy gave her mom a long hug that reassured Sharon their strong bond could overcome these confrontations. She suspected the future would test their family's strength many times. At dinner, Jeff talked about his wasted school day. Today was a bust. Jeff slowed his usual gulping of his food. The teachers mostly talked about missing their pay deposit and worried about their pensions. We just chatted, played on our cells, or wandered around the halls. Mr. Volk, the VP, didn't even yell at us. He only showed up to stop a fight between townies and bus kids. It was a great fight. Jeff smiled. I understand the teachers. Bill wondered how to let the kids know things were serious. They froze my pension fund. I'm not sure when I'll return to work and things will be normal. What? You are going to be home all the time? Jeff and Brandy exclaimed in harmony. Hey, is that so terrible? Bill laughed. Sorry, Dad didn't mean it like that. Jeff sounded confused. What's the problem? No line of credit for the payroll at Wilson's. What's a line of credit, Dad? Brandy was never shy to admit she did not know something and did not fear appearing ignorant. This trait would be the foundation for the rest of her life. It's an open loan you can draw from like a credit card. The banks can cancel them or freeze them without notice. That's what they've done to most companies and people. Oh, Brandy appeared to be satisfied. A few minutes later, she asked, do we have a line of credit? Bill sighed, yes baby, we do. I sure hope we can pay it off now. At 6:45, Warren Dunn rang the doorbell. He looked ordinary, standing about 5 feet 10 inches tall, 180 pounds with a medium build. His gray hair and closely cropped beard fit his 62 years. Sharon thought he was lonely. His wife had passed away 8 years before. Warren had moved to town soon after, taking early retirement from his job as an arborist with the city of Toronto. He carried papers, a DVD and a delicious homemade carrot cake, his late wife's special recipe. Others arrived. All but one family brought some goodies. Sharon handed out drinks as people filed into their spacious living room. Most had never visited the Shadleys' home. Everyone admired Sharon's beautiful prints of Canadian landscapes. By 7:15, half of the families on the street had arrived. Bill called for order. We should introduce ourselves. Bill had learned his meeting skills at corporate training sessions. Sharon knew everyone, but several met each other for the first time. Bob Durant piped up, interrupting Bill. I don't know what the fuss is about. This will sort out. It'll be business as usual. You are all panicking like Mr. Doom here. He shot an angry glance towards Warren, and those idiot teachers who wasted my kids' time today. The Durant family had 2 teenage children in grades 11 and 12, both as students and ideal poster children. People admired their achievements in school and sports. Bob's pushiness revealed what lay behind those accomplishments. He was an ambitious, middle-level manager at an automobile company. Success was his only measure of worth. Well Bob, Warren kept a level tone, applying the skills he learned during fractious meetings at the City of Toronto. The events yesterday are alarming and not surprising. You say, exclaimed Durant. It's bozos like you causing this problem. If you would all shut up, everything would go on fine, you and those other oddballs and commies on the CBC. You people destroyed the economy buying Jap cars and junk from China. I'm sorry you feel that way, Warren softly replied. Talking about being prepared is not dragging down the economy. Who do you think listens to people like me? The pyramid scheme economy collapsed on its own. We've mistaken debt for wealth and have now run out of lenders. If you look into it, Bill defended Warren, you'll see it's the corporations taking the jobs offshore for profits. Don't blame us, or Chinese peasants. I've had my say. I'll leave it to all you whiners. Don't screw it up more. Durant's tone menaced as if he scolded underlings. My kid has a hockey practice tonight. Durant left. His wife, looking a little apologetic, trailed behind. Don't worry about him, someone piped up. You should hear him blowing off at the arena, only cares about his kid becoming a superstar in the NHL. Yeah, he's a legend in his own mind, another chuckled. He only thinks he's rich, he's probably mortgaged to the eyeballs like the rest of us. No rich guy would live on our street. Maybe Bob's right, another suggested, perhaps this will blow over. You could be right, Sharon joined in, but shouldn't we discuss doing something just in case? I think we should form a cooperative, Warren suggested. We could bring all of our resources together and help each other out. What good would that do? What about the rest of the town? Several voices rose in hopeful doubt. One step at a time, said Warren, I agree the whole town should be involved, but we need to start somewhere. We should start local and recruit as many as we can as soon as we can. That seems hopeless. I don't see how to convince others, especially since this has just happened. Sharon's friend Jean Bennett spoke up. Jean was timid and undecided about many things, however, she was honest and a hard worker helping at the school and her church. Jean was in her 50s but looked older with her mousy brown hair tied up in a tight bun. Sharon believed Jean's controlling husband caused her timidity. The discussion proved Jean right. After an hour, the majority felt things might sort out, and organizing should wait. Warren tried to get them to watch the video he had about community solutions, but most wanted to get home. Only Bill, Sharon and Warren remained, along with Jean. I didn't mean to be negative, Jean said, but I think people are hanging on to hope. I still have trouble thinking this is it. Don't worry, Jean. At least we got people to meet, and it helped. We can't count on the Durants. I'm nervous about them. They all agreed with Warren. Warren ran a hand through his graying hair. I've studied the whole thing for years, climate change, peak oil, the economic turmoil. I wasn't ready myself and still have a little doubt. The other three listened intently to Warren's honesty. I don't believe there will be any recovery this time. Resource growth has stalled. Debt can't survive without that growth. Debt is what the world has been running on. Warren paused, pondering the facts. Going back to the bank crisis of '07 and the following stagnation, our society hit the ceiling. Growth ceased. It's now clear conventional oil production hit a plateau between '05 and '09 and only held steady by expensive efforts. Warren's ability to detail things off the top of his head kept everyone's attention. This year has seen a remarkable drop in oil production, about 6% year-on-year. Saudi Arabia claimed it was cutting production to support price, but their oil was selling at about $100 per barrel before yesterday. They are hiding a decline, just like what happened to the Mexican and the North Sea fields. But the pump price wasn't too bad, Bill interjected, it hit a $1.90 per liter but had dropped a bit until yesterday. Yes, agreed Warren. Unemployment has been high and rising throughout the industrial world. Demand has dropped a lot, especially for transportation, but the price has stayed high. The supply crunch explains it, and speculators exploited it. James and I don't drive, said Jean. We never paid attention to the price of gas. The way it will play out, Warren carried on, if the economy is collapsing the price of oil will collapse, but that doesn't mean the pump price for fuel will decline much. Every filling station has fuel at the old high price, and so do the refineries. I would guess they won't want to cut prices, at least until they receive new, dirt cheap crude stock. Won't they want to attract customers? Sharon thought Warren had it wrong. If we're out of work, we won't be able to pay much. People who need fuel will pay whatever it costs to get it. The rest of us will go without. Only the rich will drive. Eventually the price will drop, but our ability to pay will diminish too, so it will look like high prices. Geez, I am glad I filled up yesterday. Bill said. Don't use it too quickly, Warren advised. There might not be much more you can afford. If the companies can't get cash or credit, we might not have any for some time at any price. I'll believe it for sure if credit remains frozen for more than this week. I think it will. It will be the conclusive proof. If it's true, things will get chaotic quickly. Most people live on plastic credit. What will people do, and whom will they blame? I hope governments will still be able to pay for police. Warren then added, I don't want to talk about security and politics now, but they will be our greatest worry. What will governments do? What kind of government will we end up with? Warren finally finished, leaving the others thinking about the implications. What do we do now? Bill broke the silence, torn between wanting to act and hoping it would all blow over. We should inventory what we have available. Let's assume the stores will run low, at least for a bit, and things will be hard to get. Warren had worked it out long before this day. Sharon replied, let's count our food, fuel, skills and tools and see where we are. At least we can work out a system before more people become involved. The bookkeeper loved organization. Can we make a list of what we think we might need? Jean liked planning action. One other thing, Sharon worried, we need to think about the banks calling all our loans. It probably won't happen for months, but we should be ready. The visitors departed into the September night. Bill and Sharon watched from the front stoop as Warren and Jean walked away, still chatting. Halfway down the block, a street light went out. Bill laughed at the symbolism. The power company had struggled for years to fix that light, they might never do it now. The light flickered back on, the way it always had. Bill and Sharon spent the rest of the week worrying and acting. Sharon soothed her nervous clients at least once a day. They saw their bookkeeper as a source of assurance. Sharon listed all the food and other items on hand. They were short of essentials. Shopping together, they bought bulk rolled oats, flour, sugar, and baking needs. Sharon scrounged free plastic storage pails from the Foodland. They would be glad they had not waited. The lack of electronic cash, debit and credit cards prevented a rush on the stores. However, people did not realize the consequences of Tuesday's events. Innate human optimism made people think there was no real problem, or someone would solve it. Warren had gotten this detail wrong when he had predicted an immediate stampede to the stores. Shadley's cash in hand declined to a few $100s, and prices were up. The local paper had its usual flyers, but the stores posted signs to void the advertised discount prices, and police escorted irate customers from stores. The price of gasoline rose to $4 a liter, cash only, on Thursday, with none available in town by Friday night. Many people had spent their cash on gasoline instead of food. Warren had been right on that one. Bill patted his red pickup truck and smiled. Thursday was a quiet day until Warren appeared. We should talk to the mayor. Ted Johnson. Do you know him? Bill had only seen the mayor on Canada Day and in the festival parade. Ted and I argued before, but maybe now he'll listen. They walked the 5 blocks to the town hall. There were few vehicles. Bill had observed Wednesday morning's rush was a lot lighter. A mini-return rush hour developed about noon that day. Commuters had arrived at work only to return home. The flow of parents dropping kids off at school was greater on Wednesday. It would be much less by Friday. There were many empty on-street parking spaces downtown. Bill did not know if it was normal for a weekday. He had always been out of town during business hours. See anything strange? Warren asked. Bill realized, only the coffee shop, the variety store and the pharmacy were open. All other storefronts were dark. Most of them sell non-essential crap or services like insurance, mortgages, and pool maintenance. I don't think people are looking for any of that this week. The town hall was open, and the lights were on. Hi, Evie, is Ted in? Evie smiled and winked. She knew Warren. Evie enjoyed eavesdropping on Warren Dunn's arguments with Ted. I'll see if he's available. If you're here to rock his boat, it's already swamped, Evie chuckled. Bill noticed a fleeting worried look crossing her face. Evie made a call. Give him 5. Are you Sharon's husband? She asked Bill. Sharon did the bookkeeping for Evie's husband's renovation business. Sharon was much better known than Bill. Sharon's friendships and connections had already proved to be a big help. Ted invited them in. Ted, have you met Bill Shadley? Johnson gripped Bill's hand in a firm handshake as if claiming his vote with a salesman's grip. Johnson was both a politician and a salesman, short, middle-aged, and carried a few extra pounds. Ted sported light slacks topped by a herringbone jacket over a white shirt. He wore his tie, bearing the town logo with an immaculate Edwardian knot. No matter the occasion, Ted never dressed casually. He ran a car dealership and was always out to make a sale. It's busy here, boys. I always have time for citizens, but no time for BS today, Warren. What's on your mind? How is the town doing during this crisis? Warren had learned not to beat around the bush with Ted. It's damned hard today. We missed the payroll because of the bank fiasco. The guys and gals are troopers, but I feel sorry for them. I gave money to a few from my pocket. We've gotten a few people together on our street to see if we can help. Warren used his best upbeat voice. How about calling a town meeting to get people together? Ah, you're panicking, as usual, Warren, no need for that. This will blow over next week. The big deal in '08 turned out to be nothing. Besides, I need a special council meeting to work out new procedures so that we can pay for things. We need a bylaw, but the crisis trapped 2 councillors out of town. Lorna and George were at a conference, low on gas and having trouble finding some, especially since they have no cash. I'll have to send someone to get them, but they are way the hell down towards Windsor. We're hoping you're right, Bill interjected, but we should prepare for the worst. I don't see how the town can last long if this keeps up. Almost no one commuted to work today. Many people have that cash problem your 2 councillors have right now. I was just on the phone with Fred over at the Sovereign Bank. Ted backed his words with a broad, reassuring smile. He says the town's credit's fine, there's nothing to worry about. The banks need to make some adjustments and will be open for business Monday, same as usual. He says we'll get our pay processed, no problem. Ted felt confident in what he had heard, and he put a positive, political spin on everything. Ted. Warren was trying to salvage something from the visit. Would you call a meeting if things don't change? Look, Warren, the mayor sounded exasperated, trying to hide his stress. I'm not giving you a platform to spout this nonsense. We are the elected council and will do what's right. For ourselves, Bill silently completed Ted's sentence. Play it your way, Ted. We'll keep doing what we can, getting as many to work together as possible. Don't go causing trouble or sticking your nose in where it doesn't belong, Warren. And don't go riling people up. Ted always feared some group would organize in the community and pressure him, or even unseat him. Politicians feared upset voters. Don't worry, Ted, I don't want your job. You have done a decent enough one. By the way, how are things over at the lot? Warren wanted to leave on a friendly note. It's damn tough. Ted paused, and his face clouded, as he remembered other problems. I won't sell a thing unless people get credit. Fred says credit will come back, but a lot tighter. We're getting that new electric car next month. She's a beauty. Come and look, it fits nicely into your tree hugging. Sounds good to me. Warren ignored the implied insult and resisted lecturing about the uselessness of the electric car in fighting climate change. It was too little, too late, and just added to industrial destruction. All the best, Ted. I hope you get Lorna and George back. Bill and Warren walked home in silence. Bill tried to deal with this new disappointment. Warren seemed to think things over. When they reached Shadley's house, they contemplated the street. It wore the bright colors of early autumn. Bill, Warren chose his words carefully, there's a chance we'll get blamed for causing this, like Durant last night. Johnson is more or less sincere, but he'll look for a scapegoat. Are you prepared to be attacked and ridiculed? I never considered it. Bill said. Do you think it'll come to that? Perhaps, and it worries me. I hope we get enough folks together to make it hard for people to gang up on us. Warren walked off deep in thought, kicking at a few dried maple leaves. Bill watched him go, his own thoughts heavy. He turned up his walkway, hungry and needing a hug. Warren fell into his usual introspection. I don't think I handled that very well. Why can't I be a better leader? I should have gotten Ted to listen. He paused at the corner to watch an overloaded SUV heading south with a gigantic pile of something on top, covered with a tarpaulin. A couple occupied the front seats with two little faces glued to the windows in the back. This family, Warren realized, marked the first wave of people fleeing to the city hoping to replace lost jobs. I wonder what kind of life those little ones will face. His thoughts became gloomy. Warren disliked thinking about the future, a future with real people in it at any rate. It was too painful to contemplate the hardships that those two kids in the SUV would endure. He turned into his street. I hope I didn't upset Shadley. Damn it, we need a proper leader. Warren could not always see his strengths and often dwelt on his weaknesses. He entered his cramped, gloomy entrance hall and glanced at the small, framed picture sitting on a crocheted doily centered on a dark, wooden table. The doily was Susan's work, the table was a keepsake made by his father. Susan's smile shone from the past, filling him with a warm feeling. She stood on a natural rock bridge, their favorite spot on the Bruce Trail. 8 years ago, when she lay dying, fighting the pain, she made him promise to cast her ashes from the bridge. When you see the ferns and moss growing, it will be me. The photo was the only sign of Susan on display. Don't make any shrines to me, she had insisted. Remember me, but live your life. My love will always be with you. Susan had died that night. Memories trailed Warren into the kitchen. He missed her deeply. The grief had left him, but love remained. No one could take her place in his heart. Ted Johnson stared at his office door. The two visitors had reinforced the apprehension he had been feeling all day. In fact, a sense of dread had gripped him since the bad news hit on Tuesday. Ted turned over the paper he had been reading when his visitors arrived, a fax from the automotive company that supplied his dealership. The message contained 2 bits of upsetting news. They were closing all factories for a 2-week period to resolve payroll and parts issues. The company would not deliver existing orders, and would not accept new orders until they put a new schedule in place. More disquieting, the credit arm of the manufacturer would no longer issue loans to purchasers. The memo attached no time limit to that distressing news. Johnson left the office, fumbling for his wallet. Evie, I'm sending Phil down to retrieve Lorna and George. He'll be here in about half an hour. Here's some cash for him to buy gas. Tell him to fill a can of fuel in the yard and take it with him, they might be out. He handed Evie 2 $100 bills and noticed her frown as she looked at the cash. How are you fixed? Ted reached for his wallet once more. I hate to ask, Evie looked about to burst into tears. We have little food, our cash is all gone. Take this. Johnson extracted several 20s. Hank can come over and paint the waiting room at the dealership sometime this winter. Put it against what he'll charge. Ever the politician, Ted knew most people did not like receiving charity, so this would make it business and smooth over embarrassment. Ted headed to the door. I'm off to a business meeting at the Legion, see you in the morning. He disappeared down the steps. Evie carefully placed the 20s into her wallet, dialed Phil's mobile number, and reached the works boss trying to solve the latest crisis at the water tower. Ted Johnson walked the 3 blocks to the Legion. Usually, he would drive his flashy dealer's car. The artwork spray painted over the vehicle was an eye-catching advertisement, but the financial crisis had changed his habits. With gasoline expensive and becoming scarce, Ted walked most places. With little chance of sales soon, advertising seemed pointless. Hello, Ted, one of his business friends called out as Ted sauntered into the members' lounge. He joined the usual crowd of Wabun's local business elite. Most represented families who had been in the county for many generations. Less generous denizens of the lounge had dubbed this clique, the Moving Van Gang, since they were the movers and shakers of Wabun. Where's Powers? Ted noticed the empty chair. He isn't coming out. Roger Smith, the wealthiest contractor in town, frowned at the mayor. He lost most of his money in the market crash and is hiding at home licking his wounds. There was disdain in the man's voice. We're all hurting right now. Johnson ignored Smith's judgment of their unlucky friend. The mayor knew Smith had most of his money tied up in land and equipment with a significant amount of credit mortgaging the lot. All of them could suffer the fate of the Powers family. I have some good deals in the works, Smith seemed smug. The estates up in the hills have asked me to quote on some large projects. They want to make their places secure because of the crisis. I think it sets me up. How can we profit from this crisis? Frank, the funeral director, glanced around the table. There must be an angle we can play. I lost a bunch in stocks too. The man was the newcomer to the group, having bought the funeral home from its local owners a few years before. The mortgaged operation required a steady cash flow. There's always an angle. Another businessman waved towards the waiter for a second pitcher of beer. Disaster is always an opportunity. You seem confident. Johnson's smile hid his doubt. The speaker was a borderline alcoholic and already tipsy. Property is going to be cheap. The man replied, slurring his words. Lots of desperate folks will be selling. There's bound to be foreclosures. I'm watching some properties. Will Kirk, the real estate broker, sipped a wine and frowned as he gazed over Smith's shoulder, studying the night's sparse menu on a chalkboard above the serving counter. About a dozen folks came in today, desperate to sell. They all plan to leave town. I figure some of them will just default. They'll be easy pickings if we can buy them out before the banks foreclose. Kirk called the waiter over and ordered the hot beef sandwich with French fries, the only choice on the menu. The rest of the group followed suit. We have to find the cash. Frank seemed interested. You would be stupid to use your own cash. Kirk puffed. You borrow money and write it off on taxes. That could be a problem short term. Smith scowled. My bank called me in to discuss my line of credit and overdraft. They're worried about being paid. I don't think they'll be lending soon. All that will go away. Johnson tried to be positive. Our bank told me things will be back to normal quickly. The others nodded. Collapse of the business world seemed impossible, and they did not realize they might have bigger things to worry about than income tax. One slight problem might get in the way. Ted Johnson had news. I had a visit today from people who are organizing a group to help everyone survive this. These guys think we'll never recover from this crisis. Who are these idiots? Will Kirk could only conceive of business as usual. He shot an angry look towards a table of noisy, hard-drinking, peacekeeping veterans. It was Warren Dunn, and a guy named Shadley. Johnson tried to sound disdainful. The politician in him made it impossible, too used to pretending to like everyone. Dunn's a crackpot. Several exclaimed at once. Yeah, remember that meeting he called at the library last year, the drunk slurred. My son went. Dunn brought in a nutcase who believes our oil supply has peaked. The speaker got into an argument when that old vet, Charlie, lit into him and told him a good stint in the army would have knocked all the bull out of him. Charlie called the guy outside, but he was too chicken. Charlie was so worked up he would have had a heart attack. I thought we wouldn't hear any more from them. Dunn had to pay the speaker out of his own pocket. Only 6 showed up, and no one was going to donate anything for that crap. There was a woman there named Shadley, that small-time bookkeeper, an out-of-town newbie. For decades, the established families of Wabun had looked down on new residents. Commuter resident spending was the only real injection of cash into the town, other than the old age home and schools, yet, the descendants of original settlers looked on newcomers with disdain. He's dangerous. Johnson joined the Dunn bashing. They have a street full of folks riled up and looking for more support. If this drags on, they'll get stronger and screw it up for us. Ted feared to lose his job as mayor. They could keep their property. Will was afraid of losing his windfall. We got to cover that self-help angle, just in case. Ferguson owned a small strip mall and a gasoline station. We should form our own group. We're rich and respected, people will join us first. We can give them just enough help to keep them needing us. Then, we can encourage them to sell out cheap and move, or let them rent. These troublemakers don't stand a chance. Everyone nodded, but no one seemed enthusiastic. The idea of easy money had faded. The businessmen would have to work harder to implement their scheme. So where do we start? Smith looked at the mayor. Ted, you're the people organizer here. We need people to do the work. Ted had been mayor and a boss too long and depended on his staff. I'll ask Evie to coordinate things through the town office, and I'll send my young salesman, Matt Long, over to help. He has nothing to do at the moment. Ted looked despondent. None of his employees had anything to do, and he would have to lay them off until the economy improved. I have a sales rep I can spare. Will had several part-time and one full-time agent in his brokerage business. Walt Lefevre will be a big help. He was a hotshot salesman in Toronto but wanted a quiet life up here. Walt knows his stuff, and people like him. He's honest. No one will question his motives. Will they do the job? Roger Smith believed employees were lazy, stupid, and a costly necessity. As long as we pay them, Will pushed his half-eaten meal away and took a long sip of wine. God, this food is crap. I'll have a word with the manager. They had better do better than this. The other men did not complain, but the realtor Kirk preferred lobster and steak. We should be able to pay once the banks reopen next week. Ted believed the banks would fix things. If not, I'll have to lay everyone off including the town staff. I'll send my oldest boy over to help. Smith eyed Will's half-eaten meal, wondering if he should order a second helping. The others frowned at the mention of Smith's son. No one had much regard for Smith's sons. Both had attitudes and drinking problems. Ted decided Roger wanted a spy inside their organization. Well, they won't need to do much. Frank laughed. He did little else at the funeral home than count the money. His son and staff did the undertaking work. I'll send Sheila over to help. So, what'll they do? We want them to hand out enough charity to keep people hopeful. Will was the one who hoped to gain the most from this misfortune. Let them come to us if they need food or whatever. Maybe we can hand out a few dollars in loans. I'll put out a decree saying the town has teamed up with our businesses to help. Ted sketched out a proclamation. What will the people need? Frank asked. Who knows, and who cares? Smith had finally ordered a large piece of apple pie. Contrary to Will's opinion, he liked the Legion food. We can gather food to give out. One other thing, Johnson had completed his draft announcement. The service clubs, including the Legion, the food bank and the churches, will try to help people. We should ask them for the names of the most desperate. Great, Kirk exclaimed. Walt could go around and drop off the help in a real estate brochure. We'll only help those with mortgages. Will imagined his profits. What about this bunch Dunn is putting together? Johnson wanted to wrap up loose ends. Keep telling jokes about the crackpot and no one will join him. Things will be back to normal soon. We'll have some cheap property in our pockets. Will was planning to market these bargains to a fresh wave of buyers from the city. The group broke up, leaving their drunken friend as an easy mark to buy the moochers free beer.